This took place about 8 years ago. I had been single for a very long time. My kids kept telling me to get back into the swing of things, but I just kept making excuses. My nephew told me about this dating site. He said that there was no harm in talking to people, so I did it. I put everything out there, so there were no surprises when or if they met me. I thought that if they still contacted me after reading all I had described myself and we matched, then maybe I would have coffee with them. Well, I matched with a few and the conversation went well. I met with one gentleman who was way too regimental for my crazy life and kindly declined any more involvement with him. Another guy seemed too pushy and acted like I should be honoured to be in his presence. But then there came, we will call him Richard. Now please keep in mind, I had very low self-esteem at the time. That being said, Richard seemed great. We carried on conversations for hours. He lived an hour and a half away, so all we could really do was talk to each other. We talked about our kids, dreams, goals, my daughter, even friended one of his sons on Facebook. I was a secretary for some self-help meetings in my town and he was going to school to be a counsellor. Perfect, right? We talked for at least 4 months, but after a while, I noticed that he kept having small problems come up. Arguments with his mum with whom he was living, no money for gas, his truck broke down, his oldest boy was mad at him, just little things, you know. Not anything that would set me off, but it was his poor me to heck with it attitude. I tried to let that go and really be a positive influence in his life. His mother and boys loved me and told me that they had never seen him so happy. Time went on and we were still talking every day. I had an opportunity to come to see him and of course my daughter went with me so she could meet his son in person as well. I took him and his son out to eat at the only little coffee shop in that town. He knew I was on a fixed income, but I paid anyway because he was going to school and didn't have an income as of yet. We had a good time. We met at his son's house on a hilltop town. We were having such a good time that we didn't notice that the snow was coming down hard and the roads were icing up, so my daughter and I stayed the night in one of the rooms. It seemed like the closer we got to his family, the more distant they became to him. It was odd. The next day the roads were clear, so we said our goodbyes and went home, but before we left, I received one extra hug from his son's mother-in-law. She whispered in my ear, "Don't fall for him." I thought that maybe there was something she didn't like about me. That came out of the left field. The next few days we didn't talk. I thought that was odd. Did I do something wrong? Someone from the self-help meeting told me that there was a man looking for me. She said he looked disheveled and smelled like alcohol. This wasn't a surprise to me because I'd helped quite a few people get back on their feet and maybe this one fell off the wagon and just needed to talk. As I was driving down my street, I saw a truck in my driveway I didn't recognize at first. It was him. He found out where I lived and was sitting in front of my house. At first I was happy until I looked in his truck and saw him slumped over, reeking of booze. At that point my fix mode set in and I asked him in for some strong coffee. He told me that he had a blowout with his mother and she kicked him out and his boys won't talk to him. I got him some clean clothes and told him to take a shower. I figured we could sort it out the next day. In the meantime, I was taking him to a meeting. He sobered up and agreed to go, but the whole time at the meeting my friends were acting like I'd lost my mind. Did they see something I was blind of? We went back to my house and he seemed okay, almost too okay, like nothing at all had happened. My son pulled me aside and told me he didn't like him much, but I thought that maybe he was just being overprotective. I should have paid more attention. We went to the store because I wasn't prepared for the extra mouth and I bought 4 2-litres of soda, a gallon of milk and 2 Monsters for both him and my son, some chips and other things for dinner. After we ate, we all watched some TV and headed off to bed. I let him sleep on the spare bed in my room, but in the middle of the night he tried to get frisky. At that point, no. My grown kids were in the other room and something just didn't sit well with me, like he wasn't the same man he was before. The next morning, my daughter came running out of the bathroom angry. She said in a loud voice, "Someone pissed all over the toilet." He didn't say a word. Later, we were all eating breakfast and he started to let food drop out of his mouth onto the table and floor, and was spitting food while he was talking. He took 3 2-litres and drank them back to back, letting some run down his chin. What the hell? Then, yes, there is more, He took the remote and started to setting future recordings for his favourite shows and deleting a few of my grandchildren's. He set recordings for weeks in advance. Wait, what are you doing, my friend? This is not cool, I told him, but he acted like I said nothing. Then he went to the refrigerator and told me that I had to go to the store and buy more soda and stuff because it was all gone. Like it was gone. He even drank my son's Monster and the whole gallon of milk. One day, mind you, only one. At this point, my daughter was also livid, so she contacted his son, and he proceeded to tell her that Richard's mother kicked him out because he wouldn't get a job, and was stealing money and eating her out of house and home. His other son won't talk to him because he keeps asking for money and won't pay it back. He himself was mad at him for lying to me by telling me that he was going to school when he wasn't and using me as his next big meal ticket. Well, that was it. I got all his stuff together and took it to his truck and asked him to leave. It doesn't end there. He had loosened some bolts on his transmission, making it impossible to move. He begged and pleaded for me to let him stay. He was at the point snot was coming out of his nose. Good God. He said that he just wanted to be close to me, and if that meant sleeping in his truck, he would do that. And he couldn't live without me. Well, hell to the no. I called his oldest son and told them that if they didn't come with a tow truck and get their dad, his fate was not going to be nice. They arrived 2 hours later, apologizing for their father's actions. We found out through his son that for many years he had gone through quite a few unhealthy relationships and took advantage of a lot of women that fell for his lies. He still tries to friend me on Facebook to this day.
This is not the scariest story, but it definitely creeped me the fuck out. For background, I am a 20-year-old female. I matched with this guy on Tinder a while back. His name was Nick, and he seemed pretty cool. So I gave him my Snapchat. We talked a little, but it died out quickly. I didn't tell him the exact town I lived in, but the city about 10 minutes away because it's decent sized and has a big population of people. And I figured he wouldn't be able to find me just by knowing that bit of information. A few weeks ago, he started messaging me and we made small talk. Everything seemed normal for a while, up until New Year's Eve. The day before, he messaged me saying he was going to be in the area, the city I told him I was from, and asked if I wanted to meet for lunch. I told him possibly, and I would let him know. The next night, I had a New Year's Eve party with a small group of my friends. I spent most of the day getting ready and was not looking at my phone. Around 7:30, I finally looked at Snapchat and saw that Nick had not only messaged me, but also called me. "Hey, I'm in." I responded telling him I was sorry. I just saw his message. He opened it within minutes and totally freaked out. He said something along the lines of, "Just to let you know, I'm really not interested in someone who can never even answer the phone when I drove 6 hours just to see her." I looked at it in disbelief, and for a second I thought he was joking. I responded by asking him what he was talking about and that he didn't drive 6 hours just to see me. He said that we had plans, and why else would he have driven up here? I was confused because we never had plans. He told me that he was going to be in the area, which made me think he was here for work or to visit a friend. It is not uncommon for people to travel here for work. I explained this to him and told him that we did not have plans and that I didn't ask him to drive all that way for me. He told me he sat around for 2 hours waiting for me and bought me flowers. Again, I was confused because we never planned a time or place to meet, and he had never confirmed plans. You don't make plans by just telling someone you're going to be in the area. I apologized, but told him again that we never had plans. He told me to make it up to him. I had to drive up and see him tomorrow? Yeah, fuck that. I remembered that I had my location shared on Snapchat, so he could easily have shown up at my house. I turned off my location, but kept him on Snapchat in case he tries to show up at my house. Luckily, I have not heard from him since. My dad is a retired police officer and has a gun, and I'm not afraid to use it. So, Tinder creep who drove 6 hours for me? Let's not meet.